Imagine you're on the treadmill just like me. Thanks, Gary Bird, for turning me on to this walking treadmill. I was on a podcast with Gary Bird. It's like, what are you walking on while we're on the podcast? Like, I walk on this treadmill to get my steps in, got one for myself. If you would like to know what kind of walking treadmill that both now me and Gary Bird have, text walk to 215-543-6454. But the purpose of what I want to share today is, does dental insurance annoy you? Do you find dental insurance frustrating? Does dental insurance often make you want to cry inside? My name is Dr. Nacho Goodman, owner of 2 dental practices, dentist for almost 20 years, and that answer for me is most definitely yes. But I found that it's too dramatic out there in Facebook land, social media land, about I gotta be all fee for service. I gotta take 47 spoiled guac PPOs. If you take a lot of PPOs, that means you rush through dentistry. If you're a fee for service, that means you are both fancy and schmancy. But maybe there's an opportunity to reframe our relationship with dental insurance. Maybe there's an opportunity right now to communicate with your patients and evaluate what makes sense for your practice. Have you looked at the nutritional facts of the dental insurance plans you take and how they impact your practice? Imagine if I was on this treadmill, but I was also eating ice cream. That would be fun, but I might not be making progress in getting healthier. So the insurance plans you take, are they adding to the health of your practice, or are they taking away? Many of us don't know that answer. When I was taking many insurance plans, it was confusing. It was challenging. We didn't always know, and we were often very, very emotional. But it pays XYZ for a crown. That's not so bad. But now it's time for all of us to look at insurance and see how it fits. Treat it like the coupon that it is. That is one of the things you're going to learn in our upcoming series about dental insurance. To be part of this series, just text insurance to 215-543-6454. I'm doing this because one of my favorite dentists out there texted me and said, hey, Paul, I know you're moving out of network. You've been in network. I want to help my friend's office. I'm a dentist too. Could you share with us some of your resources? So I thought to myself, I can put them together in an email, put my videos together, but I can do even better. I can create assets for all of us to share. So what you're going to get is an invitation to our How Does Dental Insurance Annoy You show. Let's reframe our relationship. Maybe after seeing this show, you want to participate with more plans. Maybe after seeing this show, you want to figure out how membership clubs work in your office. We're going to talk about all of that. I'm going to provide you with resources on how to talk to your patients and team when you do drop an insurance like it's hot. And I highly recommend you don't say the words drop insurance and instead say, we're going to shift status with this insurance. These nuances can be so important, and my goal is to help you. So just text insurance to 215-543-6454. You're going to get access to videos for free. You're going to get my drop insurance, which is really shift status letter, totally for free. You're going to be able to watch in on the programs that we're going to put together. That's going to be fun, and I promise at least mildly funny. And I'm also going to share with you resources, professionals, Dental Nachos sponsors that help dentists and teams every day make more money without working more hours, reduce more stress with barely having to do anything. Looking at how insurance works in your practice, whether you're totally fancy schmancy fee for service, I got you, you're both fancy and schmancy, or whether you take 53 PPOs, including hard candy DMO, which just pays in hard candy that your grandmother had at the bottom of her purse growing up. I remember that candy well, it was a tooth killer. So text insurance at 215-543-6454. Doing this was inspired by one of my favorite people who's doing something awesome out there for dentists. So I want to do something awesome for you guys. Please join us for these shows. Text in to get these resources. Let me know what you think of the content, the things that I share, and let me know most of all if they work for you. Because working together, sharing more responsible information, we probably are not going to be happier, but we can at least be a little bit less annoyed. And that's everything. Do you need a dentisting coach? Someone to help you get to the next level. Is this your level and you want to get to the next level? What's wrong with your level? Your level stinks. What if you think you're on the best level? There's no such thing as that. If you even think you're on the best level, that's one of the limitations of your life. You can always get to the next level. I had a client once giving 110%. That stunk. I got him to use 114%. I don't know if that's how math works, but I can help you. I had one client who was so successful, he had a private jet. After working with me, he's now like Gary Vee, he wants to buy the New York Jets. My name is Dr. Paul Goodman, and all of that is total nonsense. I am a normal dentist coach. I'm a dentist myself. I help dentists buy practices, find jobs, hire their first associate, and most of all, just be happier, less grumbly in their dentisting life. Is like if we fed Mr. Grumbly nachos. If you reach out to us at dentalnachos.com or email us at salsa@dentalnachos.com, we have so many toppings to help you build your morale, make more money, deliver better patient care, and most of all, just be happier each day. So reach out to us at dentalnachos.com. I would love to help you. Welcome to Dental Nachos TV. My name is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman. We have an amazing episode with my amazing friends coming up here. Dr. Matt Bickel. He's one of my favorite people, not just in dentistry, but also here on earth. Matt knows me well before the Nacho days, right?
Yeah.
Matt, pre-Nacho time, we're going to get into that. But what I want to thank you for, so grateful that you're here sharing your story. Oh, sorry, Matt, my wife would like me to be frozen half the time. Hold on. That's a perfect way for it.
There we go. You're back.
Sharing your story about what has happened to you. And I'd like to just get right into it. We'll go into the backstory.
Okay.
When did you find out that one of your trusted team members in your dental practice, your dental office, someone that you saw day after day, was stealing money from your office?
Well, it was in October of 2018 was when we found out. It was a really difficult time. I'll kind of go back a little bit. We had bought our office in 1998, and it was a small office, and we just had one dental assistant to start out with, and then about 6 months in, we needed to hire a front desk, and interviewed several people. And this woman came with, a great resume, and she nailed the interview, and she seemed like she was the perfect person to handle the finances for the office. And we hired her. And so throughout the years, we had good times, we had bad times. We never were at the income level that we're at now. But our practice took a real nosedive during the recession of 2008, and that went on for probably, I'm going to say, a good 6 or 7 years. That it was really underperforming, and so I didn't attribute it to anything that this person was doing, other than that she, wasn't scheduling well.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was anything going on with the books. And we moved our office to the location that we're currently at now. And still, even with, a very visible location, many more new patients coming, it's still the money just, it was like we were lagging behind with everything. And so we changed our insurance clearinghouse. And when we did that, it's funny how sometimes these little things happen that cause your life to change. And, some people call it fate. I believe in God, so that's what I call it. And, but everybody has their word for it. And for some reason, when we switched over, insurance claims stopped going out. Even though everything was going through on Open Dental, it actually wasn't being transmitted to any of the insurance companies. So we reached a point where we had 0 insurance claims coming back in, no money coming into the office. And that was when red flag number 1 came up. Well,
what I want to do is interject, and this is your show, Matt, but I'm, so engaged because I'm a practice owner too.
Yeah.
I don't know all the rules and regulations. We have the amazing David Harris watching, anyone who helped you. He's spoken for me. David's awesome. Please, David, share anything you want in the chat about how people can reach out to you. But can we give this person a HIPAA-fied name? I don't know.
Okay.
Can we give a name to this person so I can ask about her without her name? You want to give her a name?
Sure. We'll just call her how about we just call her Evil?
Evil.
Like,
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Cruella.
Eve.
How about
Well,
Cruella de Vil?
Cruella. I like Cruella. So some of the things that will help me, because I know I'm a practice owner, and I'm so appreciative of you sharing this authentic story. How many years did Cruella work with you before you realized? I know sometimes I'll be repeating things you said, but just like,
That's okay.
How many years were you working with Cruella before you realized Cruella was stealing money?
19 years.
19 years working with someone
years.
day and night before you realized you're stealing money. So it was from 1998, it sounds like, to 2018 was the time frame, roughly, like something like that, or 1999. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with a sensational start with, when did you realize someone you trusted was stealing money? Cruella's been stealing for 19 years. Now I just want to pull back a little bit and orient our audience to us. I'm Dr. Paul Goodman, founder of Dental Nachos, Dentist Job Connect. Love helping dentists be less annoyed. We met at a Hyacinth implant course, and I had the awesome opportunity to be at your office running one of those hands-on courses. You're one of our star implant pupils. You have taken, starting implant cases, and you have grown amazingly. You also work with John Wilson. You got in before he shut his doors to new clients. So, So you are a general dentist that does amazing work, implants, and where is, and I'm going to ask you questions that might sound silly since we know each other, but where is your practice located?
My practice is located in Sewell, New Jersey, and Washington Township.
And how many years have you been a dentist?
We just had our 30th anniversary of dental school graduation this past weekend.
So you're affectionately known as a seasoned age dentist, the Dental Nachos term. But actually Mitchell Rubin's no, right. So I actually now have to change it, because we had a super dentist business boost, which was amazing. But we're now going to call you super age dentist, right? That's what Mitchell wants.
Okay.
You're a super age dentist.
There you go.
So the reason we have you here is because you're sharing a story of embezzlement and someone's stealing money from you. You said, Cruella, you found out in 2018. This person's been working with you for 19 years. I always was joking before we went on that, we're going to talk a lot about aha moments. I want aha to sponsor us one day. So maybe if they see me do this enough, they'll be a sponsor. So I'm going to ask you some questions, Matt, but I also want it to be your show to share in a free form way. So what would be best to start with now and kind of orienting this audience to the story? The end, the beginning, the middle?
Let me just share, what happened when we found out.
Cool.
So like I said, we had this thing going on with the electronic claims, and I checked into it personally and found out that no claims had been going out.
Jeez.
I went to her and I said, what is going on with the claims here? Because we've got nothing coming in. And she lied to my face. So that was a big one. She said to me that she's checking into all of them and they've all gone through. The insurance companies are just lagging behind, but they said they're going to be sending payment. So I knew that was a lie, because I knew I had checked myself and nothing was going through. So we had basically burned through, during this couple month period, we had basically burned through all of the safety money that we had to keep the office going. And my wife and I were talking that weekend. We said, we've already, had talks with her about not handling accounts well. So she's got to go. And we had a new dental assistant we had just hired, who was the office manager at her previous office. Her doctor died suddenly in an accident. And she got a job at our office as a dental assistant, and she was content with that, just working at a nice office and not being an office manager anymore. So we decided to promote her the day that we fired Cruella. And so about 3 weeks after that, it was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, she sends me a message through Open Dental and she says, Dr. Matt, we have a problem and you're not going to be happy.
Gotcha.
And forgive me if I get a little emotional during this story. It was tough. She pulls me into the office and she says, no statements had gone out. So I sent out a bunch of statements, and one of my absolute favorite patients, who it turns out always pays cash, got a bill and said, I don't know anything. And she checked out his account, went into the audit trail, and there it was, a cash payment for we'll say $2,000 for an implant case, statement printed, then the statement and the cash payment deleted and put back in as $1,000 payment with $1,000 balance on his account.
Jeez.
And it was at that point that I realized that she was stealing cash from patients. And so we did some more investigating in the audit trail and found that, and this was the part that.
Now, if I could just jump in for a second,
sure.
Matt, and also make sure Nacho team promote David Harris to a panelist.
Yes.
We'll get a chance to bring him on screen with them if David's around to come on
his
video.
company is the one that handled our fraud, and they were fantastic.
Just like if we're sitting around having a glass of wine or coffee, and I'm just talking with you. You know, what these conversations are about, you know, they don't have scripts or anything. Was it only cash that Crow was stealing, or was it more than cash?
Well, at this point, we could only prove cash, but
Gotcha.
a lot. And so there's little things that have come up that makes me believe that it was more than just cash, but we were never able to prove it. Like, for instance, I know everybody gets these, you know, you get ads to your office from banks and, you know, people wanting to lend you money and all that stuff. Hey, David, how's it going?
Hey, Matt, how are you? Hi, Paul.
That would be great, David. We won't take too much of your time, but we'll let you guys banter a little bit here about some of this. Because Matt, I want to ask a question as a practice owner, and I know my tendency is to be humorous. And I know this isn't a humorous topic, but over time, who was still paying cash? Nobody in our office was even paying cash. Was the stealing going down as less people were paying cash? I'm just curious.
No, you would be surprised how many people still pay cash.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep. It surprised me. But we had one person, you know, like I said, we had burned through all of our emergency funds, and she knew how desperate the situation was because we had several meetings with her about it. And during a time when I told her, like, we are this close to having zero money and maybe having to close down, I had a patient come in and prepay for a big implant case, $4,000 in cash. And she took everything. She didn't just skim $1,000 off of it. She took the entire thing. So she was just like, hey, you know, like Cruella would be, you know, I don't care whether you live or die, I'm taking my money.
I also feel like I did not bring the appropriate face to this because you and David kind of dressed exactly the same here. So I don't know, can you guys do one of those things where I have glasses on too? But in this moment, maybe, and we have David from Prosperity who's spoken for Dental Nachos and helps. I'm going to ask some curious questions, and none of them are meant to be confronting to you, Matt, but I'm just thinking as a practice owner in the most, how did you not realize in that moment the $4,000 even came in? I'm so curious. Like, someone pays $4,000, she takes it. You know, I know you might be back in the office, but even in my office, I think the patient says, sometimes patients are proud. They say, hey, I paid you all in cash. Sometimes patients make these weird comments. You're going to stuff it under your mattress, right? So I'm just more curious because I know people will be thinking this, like, how did you not notice even this moment?
Well, here's how, because, number one, she didn't make any of those funny comments. So that was number one. Number two was that she got her to prepay. This was before I even did the CT scan. This was when we treatment planned it. So I wasn't expecting, I wasn't expecting a payment at that time. There was no procedure code that was billed out at that time. She was paying in advance for what we were doing about a month after that. So that's how it happened. And I'll get into, and I'm sure David can elaborate on this too. There's other ways that it gets done as well, and that's how people hide it. So there's more to the story, Paul.
So perfect. Let's keep David on for this few minutes here, just so we can share. David, if you want to add some context, who you are, Matt, if you want to share, I know David's been so helpful to you. Yeah. I can do the impossible and not talk for 5 minutes, and you guys can talk. I'll try.
All right, Paul. Well, hi, good to be with you. And sorry, I'm a little raspy. I tested positive for COVID 2 days ago. So
are you feeling okay?
Pretty good.
Good.
Getting a little better each day. I'm the CEO of Prosperity, which is a company that just specializes in this very narrow field, and we investigate embezzlement committed against dental practices. So when I got the initial call from Matt a couple of years ago, I was exactly in the field that he was looking for. A couple of points I'll make, and you talked about the fact that people don't pay cash anymore, and I would say overall you're right. In other words, the amount of cash that most dental practices take in each month has been in long-term decline. However, let's say, Paul, I'm working at your front desk and I plan to steal your cash. I can influence how patients pay. I create a discount for them that you're not even aware of to pay cash, and suddenly there's more cash coming in.
Gotcha.
The other thing is, and Matt's situation involved predominantly the theft of cash, but that's not always the case. It is childishly easy to steal checks with your name on them. And if you're a little bit creative, it's not that hard either to steal patient credit card payments or even what are called ACH deposits. ACH means automated clearinghouse, and that's when an insurance company puts money right into your account. I won't go into details here because we're kind of in a public place, but those things are all possible.
Yeah, do the thing. David did this amazing thing. And Nacho team, please drop it in. He was part of New Dentist Boost Camp 3, I believe, and he did 2 webinars, one on hiring, one on, just for dentists. And that's what I want to be cautious of. And Matt's amazing. Just make sure you two are sharing things, and Matt's sharing on what would be only helpful, not hurtful, in tipping people off. David, before we let you drop back and Matt continue, do you want to share anything else, or Matt, do you want to bring anything to light from your experience with David that would be helpful for our audience?
Let me maybe say one more thing, Matt, if I could, and then
absolutely.
Then I'll turn over to you. And Paul, what I'm going to do is tell your audience how embezzlers think. And again, let's go back to that scenario, Paul, where I'm your office manager and I have designs on your money.
Yeah.
And the question I ask is very simple. Does Dr. Goodman look over my shoulder when I do balancing at the end of the day? So every day, what I'm supposed to do as your office manager is total up what your software says you received, and that amount should go into the bank. And there are 2 kinds of dentists. There are those who watch that, who go on their online banking every night and compare their report from Dentrix to the online banking. And then there's the other 80%.
Yeah.
And if you're in that 80%, stealing's really easy. I don't have to do anything exotic in Open Dental or whatever your practice management software is to hide what you stole. Hide what I stole, rather. I just divide up the deposit into your part and my part, and nobody knows. On the other hand, if you are somebody who monitors that, then I have to get a little more sophisticated. Now what I have to do is make your software lie about how much money came in. And, Matt is one of those careful guys who tries hard to run his practice properly. And I know that, deposits versus software collections comparison was something he was doing.
Yeah.
So the embezzler got artistic.
Yep.
Gotcha. So, and you did this, David. I love speaking and I love talking about how to speak. Patrick Winston, How to Speak on YouTube by this MIT professor is so good. You all should watch it, dentist people. But David did this squirrel story, and it talks about stories. I remember your squirrel story from New Dentist Boost Camp 3, and it basically is like people will be very creative to get what they want. You can't, think you can. I mean, this is one of these things where I'm sure you teach this, David. It's just best practices make you as resistant as possible. It's almost impossible not to have anyone ever be able to do this, steal from you. You can just put in safeguards to make it really, really hard. Is that accurate?
It's a pretty interactive crime. If I'm a thief, I size you up. The way you used to look at a bug in a microscope in undergraduate biology class.
Yeah.
What does Dr. Goodman look at in the practice? And really importantly, what doesn't he? So, if you check the daily balancing, but you don't spend a lot of time looking at the detail on your transaction history for today, then I can stuff some things in there. If you look at day end reports, but you don't do articulation, and you guys learned articulation as the mandible and the maxilla coming together. There's a comparable concept of financial articulation. What financial articulation says is if your practice was open 19 days this month, and you have 19 day end reports in your left hand, and you have 1 month end report in your right hand, the total of the 19 should be the same as the 1.
Gotcha.
And a lot of dentists don't look at that. And if you don't, then I will come in on a Saturday and pound a bunch of stuff through in your software that I don't want you to see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see that. Matt, before David goes, I love the ABC world of always be connecting, always be caring. Just tell us a little bit about you're having this crisis and you reach out to David and what happened for him to make it better. Or we talk about superheroes. How did he fly in to make things less worse?
Well, one of the big things was that, your mantra of, always being kind, and JBN, just be nice. David's company, everybody there was very helpful, non-judgmental. It wasn't like, oh, you got embezzled from, huh? Yeah. One of those dentists, and they were just very, very thorough in their investigation. So thorough that they even went back a little bit farther than the time frame that we had asked them to look at, and just to help give us some context of what was going on, gave us a full report. And here's the thing: is you got to remember that your local police department has a lot of things to do. They have a lot of important things to look at. Maybe there was an arson, maybe somebody killed. Maybe there's some rapists running around or whatever. Somebody who commits a white collar crime of lifting some cash from a dental office, not a really big thing on their radar. So when it's
not like TV, Matt, where you march into the police station like NYPD Blue and they immediately jump into action and Civil comes and starts to investigate this. No. Yeah.
So I was able to walk in there basically with the entire story and their entire investigation gift wrap for them from Prosperident, how much was taken, how it was done, when it was done, and just hand it to them. And they did a cursory investigation on their own, but they had everything that they needed and were able to prosecute the case with minimal input from me because it was all in Prosperident's report.
Awesome. Well, David, do this. Thanks for jumping on. Put your information in the chat when we send this webinar out to everyone who signed up, but didn't see it. I want to include your company's link for that. So,
yeah, sure.
David, before you jump off, any last words for us before I go back to Matt, kind of telling his story?
No, I'm interested in hearing the rest. Thank you for inviting me to jump on, Matt. Great to see you, and
great to see you too, Dave.
You look like you're thriving, and that's good to hear.
Yes, we are.
And I'll look forward to talking to you guys later.
Awesome, thanks David. You're an awesome guy. Yeah. David is really
get well.
All right, bye.
Take care.
So Matt, back to what we're talking about. Great to have David. You were talking about now. You see, what's interesting is when you have a David Harris on. It's like having an expert tooth flosser, right? The patients think we're expert tooth flossing. Now we got to go back to what do real people do in their best practice. Of course, you can hire a David proactively, which is the best way, reactively, but you still have to take care of your own teeth, right? You still have to take care of your own eyes. So we talked about some red flags to look out for, and you might have said some already, but if you want to kind of run us through those, that would be great.
Okay. Well, red flag number one that we should have picked up on and just thought it was her personality, and also having a small office where you only have one person in charge of certain areas. Red flag number one is the employee's attitude. Are they overprotective of their turf? And we had I like to keep people cross-trained in different aspects. So if one person's out, you're not lost. So we had another employee who was cross-trained to be up at the front, but she would never give her all the details on what to do. So basically, she taught our assistant, Mary, she taught her to put in the payments and things that came in totally wrong. And then she would go back in and change everything when she came back from her time off, because she did not want anybody knowing the proper way to do things, or her fraud would be discovered. And actually, that was the smoking gun for us to know that it was her for sure, because at that time, and this is one of the precautions I'm gonna tell people about everybody having their own login for the practice management. We just had one login for everybody, and we had one day where Cruella was out for a doctor's appointment. 2 people that morning pay large amounts of cash. And the first person paid a large amount of cash when Mary was at the front desk by the timestamp, and every penny of that was put in the deposit. We had another patient that came in, paid a large amount of cash on the timestamp when Cruella was working, and half of that money was stolen.
Jeez.
That was even though we didn't have specific logins, that was my smoking gun for the police to know that this was cut and dry, her only, and not somebody else up at the front.
And one of the things is, thanks for sharing that, is the reason we're doing this, it fits in our Nacho spirit of helping people be more successful, less stressed, and most of all, this is particularly reduce crying inside. It's because my sense is that these people that do this might move from office to office, continuing to do this, right?
Yes.
And being able to identify red flags like this really helps new practice owners, because I get on the dental schools, Matt, but they do not teach this in dental school, nor they really probably have the bandwidth to do so.
Yeah.
So it's something that you have to learn on the streets of dentisting, and you're doing such a great job to that. You shared something with me when we were in Facebook messaging about the Audit Trail and Easy Dental, or practice management software. Tell us more about that.
Okay. I'm not sure if everybody is aware that this exists, but in your practice management software, there is every software has it. It's something called the Audit Trail. And that will tell you, basically, it's a way of tracking every single entry that's put in, every single login, anything that happens in your practice management software is part of this audit trail. So you can go in, we have Open Dental, and you can go in and you can track by date. You can track by specific patient. You can track by specific login. You can track by even a specific thing that's done. Like for us, what we started looking for was account edits. And we did an audit trail for account edits, and all these people popped up with, $3,000 cash payment, then statement deleted, and then $2,000 cash payment put in, and she was pocketing the $1,000.
And my assumption, Matt, you're sharing such great stuff. I want to share with the audience here. I'm going to share my screen for a second. A, you can ask questions in the Q&A. And B, if you would like to connect with Matt, David, ask us any questions. Our text hotline is 215-543-6454. And I know my dentist people, Matt, I know us. They love free stuff. So we're doing a free light giveaway. So if you would like to enter that, we're not done. This is just to enter. This is just to connect with us. If you have a question you'd like to ask Matt, or getting connected with us, but you also can ask your questions in the Q&A. But Matt, what I also would share is, probably doing that is just really good best practices for keeping accurate records, even if no one's stealing from you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like you're just operator error. I mean, we all make operator errors of this. So I think that's a double 1 + 1 = 3. You're safeguarding against a massive thing. So I want to go next to what you did after you found out, but did you want to fill in anything else about, I want to say, when you found out you did this, but prior to that, did you want to fill in anything else about either red flags, fees, or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that the employees is protective of their turf is a big one as far as a red flag. Another red flag was something that happened to us that was really difficult, and I'm going to say it hurt me to the core, was the money problems that our office had. Like I said, during the recession and for several years afterwards, we were very underperforming. And for years, I thought it was me. And it turns out it wasn't me. At least not to the complete extent. And so if you're a reasonably busy practice, like you're not seeing one patient a day on, spoiled guac PPO, then it's possible that your money issues are not because of you. So you should investigate that. Another red flag would be dishonesty in any form. Like I said, when we confronted her about the insurance and she lied about that, that was a big deal. Another one is if your employee has any new big purchases, like let's say that your employee's husband is works as an alarm installer and makes $50,000 a year, and what you're paying your employee, and all of a sudden they're buying a shore house.
Yeah.
That's a red flag. Or, a brand new car that's nicer than yours, that's a red flag. You might want to, check into that. I don't mean like check into their life, but, check into what's happening at your office. Another one, and this was a weird thing that happened to us, was when they claim that your patients are different than the patients at other offices. Like, we were trying to get some bigger cases moving, and we were trying to implement using third-party financing like Care Credit and Lending Club and all that kind of stuff. And she basically told us that nobody was interested in Care Credit.
Yeah.
At our office. And I'm like, everybody that I talk to is using Care Credit at their office. No, nobody wants to do that. They'd rather just pay with their credit card. I thought that was really odd because it was so outside of the norm. And it was just another way of her controlling how money was coming in so that she could take it.
Gotcha. And really great value sharing. One of the things, and I don't want to bring up a sore subject to my strategic growth director, Brandon Hill, who the Sixers lost last night in game 6 of the playoffs. But to make this a little funnish, but also serious, is in the Sixer game last night, I'm sure the coach said in the second quarter, if we had just made this adjustment, we might have won the game. And you can't go back in time and do that.
Yeah.
But think about this over 19 years. Any adjustments that you see as a practice or looking back that you think, man, I really missed out on this thing, or there's something I wasn't checking on that we didn't go over? I'm more just curious. There might not be one.
Yes.
But I'm just curious. Like halfway through this embezzlement game, if you're like, man, aha again. If I had this aha moment, what would have happened? I'm just curious if you have something like that.
One of the big ones was, I guess, being afraid to dig too deep. Like sometimes you're afraid of what you might find. And one of the things that always struck me, like David was saying, we checked into things every single day. I looked at the day sheet, made sure the deposit and the credit cards added up to what was on the day sheet for collections, and made sure that the production was correct, that all the procedures that were in there were right. And of course, we had a bunch of write-offs from, different PPOs and whatnot. But what always made me curious was that you would have, at least this was when we had Easy Dental, you would have total practice production, total collections, total write-offs, and those 3 numbers should always pretty much add. They always seem to be lagging behind by, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000. And that was basically outstanding insurance claims and the fact that, you're producing more, so there's a lag. And it always seemed odd to me that those numbers never quite added up. They were close, but never quite added up. And so looking back, there was something that was being done there that should have been a red flag for me to have somebody investigate. And just a little plug for Prosperident. They do a bunch of webinars. They have a bunch of good information on their website, but you can also hire them just to do an audit.
Yeah.
Like, necessarily have to suggest.
We'll put that in both the chat and the
anybody's doing anything, but you can have them, look over your books, and you might be surprised what you find. And also, the other red flag is dishonesty in any form. I see this in Facebook posts all the time. People say, "Oh, my front desk gave her friend a discount, without asking me, gave her, $500 off her crown or whatever." And I always tell people, if somebody is willing to do that, they've done something else. You just haven't discovered it. So if you discover any kind of dishonesty in the people who handle your money, you need to get it investigated, because odds are that is the tip of the iceberg.
And I want to pause you, Matt. This is so amazing. And I want to share for this because people are going to watch this thousands of times after this. It's going to go viral. I don't know what that means, Matt, but we're going to go viral for sure. And if you text David to this number, text David, you can text higher. We'd love to help you with an associate. We will connect you, because I think what you said really valuable. If you text David to 215-543-6454, watching this in the future, we'll make sure we'll get you in touch with David. Because what I heard you say was, if you had done that audit by David along the way, that would have shown so many things. I think also what you say is, dentists, we're a unique bunch for many reasons.
We are.
We have this you have this family, and if someone had come looked and just checked in on this family, they would have found this member who is not acting right. And, sometimes you say, I don't want to hire a bookkeeper to look at my stuff. I don't want to hire a CPA to look at my stuff. But my sense is, Matt, that, just having an outside advisor kind of check in on numbers that people are supposed to be doing may uncover something you wouldn't realize. And, I also want to be positive. Sometimes I uncover something good that your profit's better than you think. So I think that's really valuable. So let's now run up to you. Take us at this last segment, Matt, to you find out what happened. I want to know what you're doing, how you're doing now. I know you're doing awesome. I want to know, but tell us, what did you do when you found out what's been the final outcome? What's happened to Cruella? Tell us about that.
Okay. All righty. Well, so we found out about it. We hired Prosperident to do the investigation. And so this was something that I was not aware of, but if you check your business insurance, most of them have a rider for employee theft. So ours had I think it was $10,000 or $11,000. Some are more than that. But the investigation from Prosperident is not cheap. It costs about, I think it was like $9,000 at the time. But basically our insurance paid for the entire thing to get the investigation done to find out what was going on. So two things happened. Number one, we got that investigation done and I took it immediately to the police and they did their own investigation. She was arrested several months later. Number two, and I'll get back to the arrest in a minute. Number two was that because we had moved and went to Open Dental, we still had the old computer from our previous location that had Easy Dental on it. And now from the investigation, I knew what to look for. I went into the audit trail on Easy Dental and what I found blew me away. I was only able to trace it back to Easy Dental's first main update in 2004, but I was able to trace her theft all the way back to 2004. And it might have gone on longer than that. And so my rough estimate is somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000. Prosperident found $100,000 in the previous 18 months. And here was a funny thing. Was like I said, we moved the office, we switched from Easy Dental to Open Dental. They found a lag of about 4 months after the move when no thefts occurred, because what she was doing was she was learning how Open Dental worked and how it was different than Easy Dental and didn't want to do any embezzlement until she figured out how to hide it again. And as soon as she figured that out, boom, it started.
I want to interject with a couple things. One from your amazing wife. Another red flag should have been that our employee came into the office when no one else was there. She volunteered to come in early and while we were away to do extra work. Huge red flag. I've been around a lot of dental office employees. If they could get out of the office when it's done fast enough, the dental office is a circus. It's a full contact arts and crafts. So that is a red flag, people wanting to come in extra. Also, practice owner asked, what would your advice be to a young practice owner who's low or short on cash flow because they suspect it, but don't have the money to pay for an audit? I mean, one, try to find the $9,000 to pay for that because it's so important.
Well, that's number one is check your business insurance because most likely they will pay for it.
Oh, cool.
Number two is, and it's cheap and easy, is to go into the audit trail yourself and look for those audits or edits, I should say, to the accounts and see what's going on there. Another big thing, like my wife was saying, is that she would come in early. We start seeing patients at 8, and sometimes she'd be at the office at 6:30 in the morning. And she said she needed it quiet to work on the accounts and whatnot. And now we know what was going on. And it's a little different now in the digital age, but at that point we were paper charts. So she had all these little piles of, 6 charts here and 10 charts there. And, said it was for, treatment plans that she was working on or different things. And I think it was her filing system for embezzlement. So if something seems off, then that's a reason to investigate. But especially if there is like I said, the turf where somebody's very, very protective of their turf and doesn't want anybody looking. That's a big one. And here's the other thing is you mentioned about dental schools not really being able to teach this stuff because they don't have the bandwidth, and how dentists are different. We are different because we work with a small group of people that we consider almost to be family. Have patients that we care for that we consider almost to be family because we're trusted with their care. So even though we're business owners, we're not the same as other business owners. And in some ways we need to think like them. So if you go to Target and you want to return something, you can't just go to the the employee at the register and have them return something because they're not authorized. There has to be a manager involved.
Yeah.
In the same way, you need to set up, go into an open dental, it's under security. You need to go into your security settings, and the only person who should be authorized to change or edit accounts should be you. And what happens then is it's a real pain in the butt because sometimes you're in the middle of placing an implant and your front desk comes up to you and says, I'm sorry, but I punched in the wrong thing and I need you to erase it for me. Yeah, it's a real pain in the butt, but I can't tell you how much of a pain in the butt it is to hire an investigator and try and get something.
Such a golden tip there. Some people are echoing the insurance, look for employee dishonesty, like you pointed out. An examination and audit is a great investment to help you understand your true needs to safeguard your practice. Great. So Matt, as we start to move toward it, tell us where you are now, how you're doing now, about your practice, kind of take us to the present day post all this and what's happened since then.
All right. Well, present day, I'll start with Cruella. She was arrested, offered a plea deal. And unfortunately, because New Jersey is, I love my home, but we're one of those states, and they have a special program for first offenders where it basically works like reverse probation. So she has 3 years to be on probation and keep her nose clean, and also 3 years to pay us $56,000 in restitution, which is a drop in the bucket. Our first check a couple of weeks ago for a whopping $150. So
go to Lopez and get some nachos. You deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going to do with it. And but the issue is that under this plan, like I said, it works like reverse probation, where she is judged right now as having no record. And unless she doesn't pay or violates probation in those 3 years, I cannot tell you her name. I can't look at her. I can't look at your website of your team photo, see her and say, hey, you need to fire her. She shouldn't be on your team. I'm basically, it's like libel if I say something, and that's what the prosecutor's office told me. So David did tell me he may have a workaround for that. So I'm hoping that I can share some more details later. But that old saying that nobody in your office is indispensable. If you have an employee that you think might be trouble, but you can't quite put your finger on it, after you fire them, most likely what's going to happen is the stories are going to come out about how she wasn't as nice as you thought. And our new office manager is just an absolute joy to work with. She handles accounts and everything wonderfully. She's honest as anything, and I have the audit trail to prove it. But we are now basically, we moved 6 years ago, and we're doing about triple what we did when we moved. We're on track to collect about 1.5 million this year.
Awesome. That's great.
It's just our new patient numbers are off the charts. I'm doing more implants now than I ever thought I'd do before. I've told you before, Paul, it's like my second career. It's just totally different. And honestly, when we fired her, we saw just the entire morale in the office change. We heard laughing coming from the front, and we got somebody who knows how to collect money without being mean. And life is great. It's like a full plate of nachos.
I love that, Matt. I'm keep you for a few more minutes. I cannot thank you enough for this story enough. You mentioned the other day, I think that's how you got to show your Nacho t-shirt. I think we had sent you because we sent you a bunch of Nacho because you, unrelated this, you were just such a great friend. You said, Paul, I know sometimes you deal with some hassles online. We'll call them hassles, but I'm so glad I did the implant course with you years ago. And it made me who I am. So, people can text flicks to this number and we'll let them test drive a lot of this. See what you did here, Matt, with me just helping is the whole purpose of Dental Nachos. And really the whole purpose of Dental Nachos is ABC to FLA, always be connecting to feel less alone. So I want to thank you for making people feel less alone. But as a super age dentist, right? And as someone who's known me well before Dental Nachos, and you probably said, that's just Paul being Paul. I know him. I know he's half crazy. I know he never seems like he drinks too much coffee, but he's always running around trying to help us. You're not the newest dentist on the block, but what is Dental Nachos? I mean, the awesome Jamie, our friend and sponsor, your friend, is here watching. If you were talking to any age dentist, but especially your group, what has being part of Dental Nachos meant to you? How has it helped you? Whether it's checking things at night, sharing your stories, meeting friends, I would love for you to just share that with our audience.
Oh, wow. Well, before Dental Nachos, before I met you, I would say I was kind of the poster child for TSD. That's so dentist.
That's so dentist. That's so dentist. Just want to share. It's the ability to find the negative in almost anything.
Yes.
It's the ability. It's the scarcity mindset. It's the other people are out to get me. It's the my colleagues or my competitors. I'm not saying you embrace all of those, but I just wanted to define TSD for a second.
It's basically the idea that that you're the only good dentist. Everybody else is a hack, and there's no reason to become friends with anybody who's a dentist because they're your competition, even if they're all the way in Pennington like you are. And it's a whole different idea. And your attitude of erasing that we had in dental school and collaborating and not having a scarcity mindset but having an abundance mindset, it's totally changed my life and my practice.
I appreciate that much. I mean, we can have more fun, we can make more friends, and you and I mean, we don't agree on every single thing. We text and have disagreements. We do this, but we're still friends at our core. Still people have our back at our core, the way families are supposed to be. People go, I treat people like my family. I go, oh, do you fight on vacation at the beach? Because that's what we do 4 days in, right? Who ate the rest of the Doritos, right? And that's the real part of life. Families have fun and families have friction. And I want dentists to feel like they're part of a Nacho family and part of a community. You just help us embrace that. So I love that, man. I want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else you want to share with us before we jump off? You can share how people could reach out to you if you like. You could share a message, inspiration, or you could just say thanks to all of us. Anything you want.
Well, you can reach me on Facebook by Facebook Messenger, or you can reach me on my email, which is drmattbickel@gmail.com. I'd be happy to to talk to anybody who's suspecting this or having trouble with this. The main thing that I want people to get from this is that according to the ADA, almost 50% of dentists, I think it's 46.8%, will experience embezzlement at some point in their career. And although they said the average that was taken was 10,000, David's company has people who are in the $1 million club of what they've stolen from a dental office.
Wow.
So what I want to do is kind of erase the stigma from this, because it is heartbreaking to know that this has happened to you and to feel like I must have done something wrong. I must have been too stupid to see it, and you don't want to discuss it with others. Number one, because you need that help. If it wasn't, I've got my wonderful wife Kathy, who we went through this together. We helped each other, but if I didn't have her as a partner, I would want to have somebody alongside me, and other people have still come alongside me for this. So number one, I want to get rid of the stigma, so people will say, hey, can you help walk alongside with me through this? And number two is that I don't want this to happen to anybody else. So if it has happened to you, report this person. Don't just fire them and walk away and say, oh, I guess it's somebody else's problem now. Send them to the police. Even if nothing happens, you need to scare the bejeebers out of them. Number two, when you're hiring somebody, and David's company has some great webinars on hiring, you always want to check references. And the most important question that you want to ask when you check those references is, would you hire this person again?
I love that.
And if you don't get an emphatic, yes, they were great, I'm sorry they left my practice. If you get, well, then scratch them off your list. You don't want them on your team.
That's such great takeaways, man. I always like, this is real TV, so I want to leave everybody with what's coming up next. So Nacho team, I want to bring Matt back in the fall, because now I'm going to ask you to put your clinical hat on. And you just did this whole great thing for us, Matt. So I'm going to ask you a tough question here at the end.
Okay.
You can, for the rest of your career, you can do one thing only, right? One thing only. You walk through the red door, it's this. You walk through the blue door, it's this. You walk through the red door, it's an implant placement on number 30. The blue door is a root canal on number 30. Which one are you picking for the rest of your career?
Oh, for the rest of my career, as much as I adore implants, endo is my first love. And it's funny, even at 56 years old and in this for 30 years, there's multiple times a week that I wish I had gone ahead with that endo residency I was thinking about. So
what I'm going to do this. So this is going to be our show, Nacho team. It's going to be Dr. Matt Bickel, and this is the presentation I would like for you for 60 minutes. Even dentists that love endo still can love implants. And I'd love for you to present.
Absolutely.
I'd love for you to present on how you use your microscope, use digital dentistry work to do both cases. I think that would be great. So would you do that for us in the fall?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a scope though. I don't have a scope.
Oh, yeah. So that was even better. Loops. What magnification loops do you use?
I use 6X for endo.
6X for endo?
And a pre-op cone beam for every case.
Cool. So that's even better, because I love that, because that makes it a little more achievable for most general dentists to get 6X loops than a microscope.
Yeah.
No, we have a microscope sponsor. They're awesome. So we're going to bring it back in the fall on Nacho TV.
Cool.
Even a dentist who loves endo will still do implants. Hang around for a second.